So, hello, can you hear me? Okay, I think I'm live. I hope so. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you hear me? Just making sure I'm live because this is the first time I'm actually doing this from a device, from a streaming device, and not, yeah, I'm live. And not directly in YouTube, and it's been quite a learning curve. Hello. So I'm just gonna get into it because I already know from my past 3 live streams that people are gonna trickle in, and there's people gonna be watching the replay. So I'm just gonna start. Right now, I'm gonna make my face a bit bigger because I'm gonna talk in the beginning, and I'm gonna share my app in a minute. Okay, so hello and welcome. Today's live is about rewriting a scene. Now, this is very much out of my comfort zone, but I figured you have to be real, you have to show your work in progress. And up until this point, I had been talking about All In, my film that I finished a few years ago, and today I will be taking you behind the scenes of my current project that I'm writing right now, that I'm working on currently. So this is pretty vulnerable place to be, and I figured, everyone is gonna be in this situation at one point, so I figured me as well. I'll just show you my process, and I'll get into it. So, first of all, what makes a scene a good scene? Um, there's a quote by Alfred Hitchcock. He says, basically, films are like life with boredom, the boring parts cut out. And this always comes to mind. So if we are thinking about writing a scene or optimizing a scene later on, we always have to bear in mind, what does this scene actually do for our overall story, for our story arc, for our characters? Does it reveal something new about them, or is it just there because it was fun to write? It happens to all of us, the latter. I also had scenes in this screenplay that I just enjoyed writing so much, and then when I had some distance from it and looked at it again, I had to admit to myself, yes, this is fun to write and also to read, but it's just chit chat, it's just banter. There's some jokes in there, okay, but it's not a comedy first and foremost. So just having a few jokes in a scene is not enough of a reason to keep the scene in the screenplay. So it's called Kill Your Darlings, right? Um, you you might like this scene, so it's a darling of yours, but you still have to cut it because just leaving it in without knowing why it's there, that's when it becomes redundant. So basically, before you are able to write a scene, you have to know your character. And I've talked about this before. I do have character Bible preset template where it's just one page and you can fill it out. And there's a lot of people that are really happy with how clearly they can see their character when they've used it. And also actors that I worked with, they are so glad when I took the time to fill out such a character Bible template for their part, because it just makes everything so clear. In there you can find, how did the character grow up, what are their strengths, their weaknesses, and their fears, their likes, their dislikes, and so on. And what have they been through, what are their wounds, how do they act in certain situations, and so on. So basically you have to be able to visualize your character, think of them as a person you know, so you know how they would react in certain situations, and so on. Only then can you authentically write that character, because we all know ourselves. We know, how would I react if, I don't know, a person that I don't know said something rude to me? Would I just ignore them? Would I be aggressive towards them? Would I say something back? Would I just walk away? What would my reaction be? And then also for my character, how would they react? And basically, if you put your characters into hairy situations, into situations of crisis, of conflict, then, they show their real color. So, and it's the same like for us, if everything's all roses and we're relaxed and we don't have a care in the world, it's easy to be in a good mood and relaxed. But what happens when S hits the fan? That's when it gets interesting. That's when the true sides of our characters are revealed. So basically, if we have a scene and there's a dialogue, then that means there's at least two characters, and you have to always know what the goal of your characters is. So character A has a goal in your scene and character B should have a different goal in your scene. If that's the case, you do have conflict, because there's two different interests colliding. Conflict does not mean that they are, physically attacking each other. Conflict just means, different interests. And however that plays out, it can be very subtle. It can be, it can be someone putting someone else under pressure. It can be someone wants to know a secret that the other person might be harboring. It might be in a comedic scene. There's also like maybe person A knows something that person B doesn't, and then we're making fun of person B that doesn't have a clue, something like that. Whatever. It doesn't mean that there's always, ill will. It just means different objectives. So, I actually went ahead and for my feature script that we're talking about today, I made index cards. Now, I even colored them by act. So the orange is act 1, then purple is act 2 part 1, green is act 2 part 2, and blue is act 3. So of course I'm not going to show you contents of each of those scenes, but I'm gonna go through now act 1, because one of the scenes we're about to take a look at is in one of those cards. So how this system works is you basically write down the synopsis of every scene on one card. So one card for one scene. Always, what happens in the scene. Okay, so now let me find the one that we're about to look at. Now, because it's still early in my project, I'm not gonna give away her real name. I renamed her Ellie for today's exercise. Yeah, I'm just feeling very protective of this material, as you can tell. And but still I want to let you know what I'm working on. Trying to find it now. Anyone here? Hello? So basically, to just sum it up, what my story is about, so you know what we're gonna get into. Just this one card is missing now. I don't know. My story is about Ellie. We'll call her Ellie for the sake of this video, for this live. Ellie, and she really has a deep bond with her father. And her father disappears under very mysterious circumstances when she's still a kid, when she's 12 years old to be exact. And from this day forth, he was never seen again until the story picks up. And when the story picks up, he's still missing. And now the scene that we're going to get into is exactly about that, about her and her mother and how differently they see the facts, and also, you know, their view of the world. And of course, the daughter being a bit more naive because she's 18 at that point. She doesn't have the same amount of life experience as her mother does. And that's why there's conflict there. So because those two, they love each other dearly, but they also just have different opinions of, you know, what happened and so on. Okay, if you paid attention, you just saw her real name. Anyway, so basically, I'm gonna read you the first scene that I first wanted to work on, but it's kind of short, so that's why we're gonna go with the second one. I'm gonna read it to you. So we are working with time jumps here, as you can see. Interior, Alice family home 6 years ago later. We're jumping back 6 years from now, and now will be when she's 24, so 6 years earlier. That makes her 18. The rain has ceased. Slowly the sky opens up and the sun peeks through the clouds. Mother, standing by the window looking outside, turns at the sound of approaching footsteps. Ellie, 18 years old and between teenager and womanhood, looking disheveled, enters. Her glance rests on the document her mother signed, still sitting on the small table. Aghast, she confronts her mother as the meaning sinks in. Her eyes are flashing between grey and orange. Ellie: so you really went through with it? Mother: Ellie, darling, I had to. You did not. How can you just turn your back on Dad? For 6 years I hoped. There is no trace of him. I am sorry. I will never give up hope. He's out there. I know you miss him, so do I, but there's no point fooling ourselves. He's... Before Mother can say another word, Ellie interrupts her. Don't you dare say it! Ellie storms out, leaving her mother on the verge of tears again. So this was just a scene after Mother had declared her husband dead, which of course is quite a pivotal moment in the story. And now we're gonna go to the next scene, which we're gonna work on. So this is not immediately after. I just left in the first scene, so you have some idea of what transpired before this scene that we're gonna work on. There's a few different scenes in between, and this is also from my first draft, because yeah, there's some work that needs to be done here. So, interior Ellie's bedroom, morning. A ray of sunlight streaks through Ellie's bright bedroom. Slowly, Ellie gets out of bed. She puts on a black dressing gown over her silver negligee as a knock at the door interrupts the silence. After a second, Mother calls. Just making sure that I'm visible. Darling, can I come in? Well, okay. Mother steps into Enya's room and finds her daughter lying on the bed, looking sad and fighting back tears. What's wrong? I had a dream again, on the glacier, with Dad. Mother approaches Ellie and stands next to her, who is sitting on the edge of her bed. Of course, I know your theory. I just can't. I hate seeing you so upset. Ellie's defenses fall. She looks at her mother, almost pleading. I know your theory, but you told me he was here once and on another continent at exactly the same time. You said there are records. There's no point arguing about this. I understand your desire to believe he's still out there, and he surely is. But maybe not as we know him. He so surely is. You loved him. How can you live with yourself, giving up on him? Darling, we have to be sensible. There is not one clue that he is alive, not a single one in 12 years. But I would have felt it if he was gone. I know it. I wish you were right, but I had to face the facts, and they point towards him being gone. I do not ask for your forgiveness. You have your views, and I have mine. I guess. But will you ever stop missing him? Of course I won't. I know he loves us and I love him, but here, every day, we have a life to lead. And I refuse to live in the past. I would hate for you to put your life on hold because you can't stop wondering. Your father would not want that for you. He would want to see you making your own experiences, falling in love, living your life. Which is what you're doing. How can you just shake off your sorrow like that? It makes you seem cold. I cannot pour out my grief every single day. I would not be standing here today if I did. Well, I can't let it go. They glare at each other. Ellie is as stubborn as her father. Her mother knows when to leave her alone. After looking for a while at her, Mother says in a calm voice, Darling, why don't you have some breakfast? I made scrambled eggs. Come on. Mother leaves Ellie's bedroom. She looks after her mother with a sour expression. After a few seconds, she realizes how hungry she is. The hunger wins. She turns towards her closet, her expression softening at the thought of breakfast. Okay, so I just read the scene. Hello. So, what needs work here? Of course, it's very subjective, you know. This is basically a very early draft. You know, this is the kind of writing that you do when you just need to have all the feelings out there. You as a writer, you need to know, you know, what are they actually feeling, what is happening in the story, and so on. And there's no problem with writing that way in the beginning, but you need to revise it because here what is happening is, and I'm criticizing my own work here for anyone wondering. What we need to bear in mind is where is dialogue taking over too much of the work, because this is a very dialogue heavy scene and I chose it that way for a reason, so we have something to work with, and so it's obvious that we need to cut some sentences out of this, and maybe also think about how can we show what someone is feeling instead of them using their words, because there's a saying that goes, you should only use dialogue as a last resort. So if there's no way of transporting what someone is feeling, what's going on, but dialogue, then you may use dialogue. And of course, there's also moments like here where things are heated and emotional. And I do believe that in such a moment, people are not just gonna nod politely, because also the relationship of those two, there are mother and daughter, so they're not just like work colleagues, and facade has always got to be perfect. That's not their relationship. They're very close, and this is a very, very personal topic for both of them. And you don't know if your dad's still alive. Like, of course you're gonna get emotional. Still, let's look at what we can do here to improve this scene or shorten it. If I were to look at the whole screenplay, I might also find that this whole scene is not necessary, or to really shorten it down. For now, let's just go through line by line and look at especially the dialogue. I also omitted a lot of description here because it would be too revealing at this point about my main character and what her traits are, because she does have very peculiar physical traits that I don't want to give away just yet. And that's why this description up here is way shorter than it would be. So that's also something I omitted. Basically, show don't tell. So also, like, is the relationship so close that mother can come in when the daughter is 18? Well, she does ask, and the tears were not here, they only come here. So maybe we should add tears are streaming down her face. Okay, so that's basically continuity. The tears have to be there if she's gonna wipe them away later. Well, okay. Mother steps into Ina's room and finds her daughter lying on her bed, looking sad and fighting back tears. So she wiped them away and she's still fighting them back. Yeah. What's wrong? She could ask that, yes. She might also just look at her in a certain manner instead of asking, but we can leave it in. I had the dream again on the glacier with Dad. We do need that for context, otherwise how would she know what upset her daughter? Mother approaches Ellie and stands next to her, who's sitting on the edge of her bed. Of course, I know your theory, I just can't. So now we're going into the story, establishing that mother and daughter have very different opinions on what happened. I hate seeing you so upset. Yes, that's the concerned mother. So always ask yourself, is this line in line with your character's opinions and way of seeing the world? So this mother, of course there are so many different mothers. This mother is by nature very concerned about her daughter, but not overprotective. She also gives her some room, but of course she knows that in this instance it's a very, very painful topic. So I would leave that line in. Ellie's defenses fall. She looks at her mother, almost bleeding. I think her defenses were never up, so I would just say Ellie looks at mother, almost pleading. It's a bit short. I know your theory, but you told me he was here once and on another continent at exactly the same time. You said there are records. Again, this is story. Could we establish this in another way? We might, but in this instance, it's still a dialogue scene, so we'll leave it. There's no point arguing about this. I understand the desire to believe he is still out there, and he surely is, but maybe not as we know him. His soul surely is. So now mother takes a stance and states what her opinion is. And Ellie fights back. You loved him. How can you live with yourself giving up on him? So she's not holding back here. Darling, we have to be sensible. There's not one clue that he's alive. Not a single one. And now we have a mistake. In 6 years, it should say. But I would have felt it if he was gone. I know it. And this again, this drives story because we learn that Ellie thinks she would feel it if her father was dead. What does that tell us? It tells us that her connection with her father is very strong. Their bond is very strong. I wish you were right, but I had to face the facts, and they point towards him being gone. I do not ask for your forgiveness. You have your views, and I have mine. Here, I think it's a bit. You have your views, and I have mine. This almost seems a bit like she's offended, or she's she's like, okay, you're being unreasonable, and this she has more life experience than her daughter, and that's why she should have more of more capacity to empathize with her daughter and maybe not shoot back that much, I do not ask for your forgiveness. This is important because she signed a declaration of death for her husband, and this is why she feels guilty, and that's where this comes in. So we might strike this sentence. And then she's pleading again, I guess, but will you ever stop missing him? Of course I won't. I know he loves us and I love him. But here every day we have a life to lead, and I refuse to live in the past. I would hate for you to put your life on hold because you can't stop wondering. Your father would not want that for you. He would want to see you making your own experiences, falling in love, living your life. Yes, and this is just a bit preachy. Of course, a mother can be preachy at times. And do I want her to be preachy? That's the question. And this is again where character reveals itself. For me, it's a bit too much. So I'm gonna delete this one, and then I mean, it's all true what she says. Which is what you're doing. How can you just shake off your sorrow like that? It makes you seem cold. I cannot pour out my grief every single day. I would not be standing here today if I did. So maybe we can just delete all of this and continue here. Yeah, that works. So we've just got rid of, like, I don't know, 8 lines more. Yeah. How can you just shake off your sorrow like that? It makes you seem cold. I cannot pour out my grief every single day. I would not be standing here today if I did. And then here, I would say we need some action. Ali turns away from mother, looking out of the window sternly. Or was she in the hog before? This is also something you have to check, like, where did we leave them? She looks at mother, almost bleeding. So she's still sitting on her bed, and her mother is next to her, standing next to her. So maybe even Ellie gets up and turns away from mother, looking out of the window sternly. Okay, so this is more of a gesture, like, I don't agree and I don't want this closeness anymore. And then so Ellie turns to face her mother angrily. They glare at each other. Alice is stubborn as her father. This does not belong here. Why? Because it's in a screenplay, we cannot write down what a character is thinking, because how are we going to transport that? Of course, it's always a fine line with how do you transport subtext. Well, that's what the director is for on set or in rehearsals, but I cannot leave this in. So Ellie is as stubborn as her father. Her mother knows when to leave her alone. I mean, I'm still also learning about this, but as far as I know, this should be omitted. And then it's all about, what does she do? Where is she looking? What can we see or what can we hear, basically? Because film is a visual medium. So can we see her getting up? Then we can write it, Or can we see tears streaming down her face? So we can write that. We cannot write what she's thinking because, yeah, as I just explained. Okay. Let me just check that I'm online and that you can see me. Let me just check. Okay. That I'm online and that you can see me. So I can see the little screen. I cannot see the big screen, funnily enough. Why can't I see the big screen? This is interesting. Ah. Okay. Let me see. I'm sorry, this is like the first time of me doing this. The little screen, I cannot see the big screen. And there's some delay as well. I put myself on mute here. So you could not see what I did here. Funny. Okay, I'm so sorry. Where is this thing now? I don't know. So, okay. Well, I'm so sorry. I thought I showed you everything, and yesterday when I did the test, it all worked very well. And now not so much. I don't know how to fix this right now. Um, I still don't know what's going on here. The good thing is I can check. You can see the mouse. Okay. Hello. I really don't know how to do this. Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know. Yeah, I did prepare, but somehow it's not visible. Anyway, I did read everything, so hopefully that helped. But basically, the key is to just focus on redundancies. So I'm gonna make my face big here. You know, there's always a reason for things. Like, what is this now? Okay, I don't know. I don't know what's happening here. I can make this bigger, but I cannot add my screen. Well, there's always a reason when things are not working the way you want them to. There's always a reason. So basically, let me just wrap this up. Focus on redundancies, focus on getting rid of unnecessary dialogue. I think I emphasized this point. And do more of show, don't tell. So whenever possible, have your characters do something rather than just say something. And also, you know, when are they silent and when are they saying something? There should be logic behind this. And yeah, play with settings. So sometimes it's also about having maybe more than just one location when you can. And being able to switch things up like that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna rehearse some more before trying this again. Next week you can look forward to a recorded video so I can make sure that we're all visible. And it's gonna be a big announcement connected to this story. And in the meantime, watch out for my shorts. Let me know in the comments what resonated with you today, what helped you. And once again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Okay, and let me know what you would like me to cover next time. Bring your questions and have a nice evening.